Leap of Faith podcast fans. Welcome to this week's episode with yours truly, Randy Silver. As always, the Leap of Faith is around overcoming adversity, teaching life lessons, helping you understand how you can better yourself. This week's episode, my guest, Kevin Payne, is going to help us understand the overcoming adversity part. Not more of a life lesson teaching this week, it's more about how you can better yourself and never let the circumstances around you dictate your life and how you can overcome them. So, Kevin, welcome to the podcast. Can you say hi to the fans really quick?
Well, hey, Randy. Hey, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. So, we'll bring Kevin back in 1 second. I want to just again say a quick recap to last week's episode, which is around stocks and cryptocurrency. A lot of interest, a lot of that, the social media push I did on that actually went viral, got thousands upon thousands of views and likes on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. So obviously it's a very relevant topic. Hopefully you're able to understand from that what you need to know when you're going into the cryptocurrency market, the stock market, how they can fluctuate, be safe, all goes with it. So I appreciate David coming on for that week. Leap of Faith fans, again, if you like this content, please do please subscribe however you find it. You can do it on our social channels at Leap of Faith Pod or my personal at Randy Silver09, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and then of course on all how you're listening or watching, YouTube, please like and subscribe, Apple, Spotify, all the good, please like and subscribe. It helps me grow the Leap of Faith message. It helps me continue to find new fans, help me to continue to grow the current fans, and I really appreciate it. Now we can get to why Kevin's on today. So Kevin is someone who reached out to me. We connected via Facebook when I put out in our podcast group, hey, I want to find some guests, people who've overcome adversity, and share a story with you and the audience. Why is it important? We go through so many highs and lows in our life, and it can feel very daunting. Some of those highs are so high that you never want them to end. And some of those lows are so low that it almost feels like you don't want to live life anymore. And how do you overcome those lows to get back to those highs? Is it a physical injury? Is it a mental injury? Is it something with someone around you? You know, again, last week or a couple of weeks ago, I talked about one of my close friends died. So how do you deal with that grief? Do you stay in the low, or how do you continue to move forward and have the right mindset to overcome and have the self-will? So this is where Kevin came in. This is Kevin's story in a nutshell. Kevin has a PhD in sociology and psychology. He's lived with multiple scoliosis for 32 years, which is a long time. He spent a decade supporting a wife dying of cancer, which is super hard. His brain didn't work. His body was in shambles. He felt alone. His dog passed away in front of him, and he was at the lows and lows of his life. However, he didn't let this hold him down. He was able to get himself back up and understand, hey, I want to accomplish my dreams. I'm going to make my life what I want to. So he faced this, he resolved his life. He found his dreams. And in 2019, he became a skydiver. What does that mean? He had over 600 jumps, 370 in 2020 alone, and he has a skydiving license, which is unreal. And he's using that mindset and that mentality to help you, help people around the world understand that you can overcome whatever is in your life, the hardships you're dealing with, to make your dreams reality. He does that by going around and helping, speaking on podcasts and things like that. And he also has a book that we will talk about at the very end that you can go out and read about it. So Kevin is here to help us, the Leap of Faith fans, really understand that whatever you're going through in life, you can overcome it. You'll be able to achieve it. If it's a physical issue or a mental issue, don't let it hold you down. Kevin, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the Leap of Faith podcast. And I've had so many fateful leaps in my life already. I feel right at home.
Yeah. And obviously you took the leap of faith off of a plane 600 plus times. So skydiving. So I'd love to start there. And this will take us back to the story. So you said you always had a dream about skydiving and you had physical ailments, things that happened that you never were able to make it happen. What kind of clicked for you where you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna go for it, and then did it again and again and again 600 plus times?
Yeah, and still counting. I mean, now with 500 jumps is kind of a milestone in skydiving. That's kind of where the training wheels come off and you're eligible for all the licenses and you're eligible for, professional ratings and that kind of stuff.
Got it.
So now after that, now it's just all gravy. And so for me, I went back to skydiving for three reasons. Now, as a little kid in the 70s, I saw a skydiver at an air show, and it was the first time I'd seen a square parachute because people were jumping rounds, right?
Hmm.
And the rectangular parachutes, the ram air parachutes that we think about now, were still new at the time. So
Interesting.
I saw
Okay.
this guy, and instead of just dropping out of the sky, he whizzed over us and controlled it and landed right on his mark, and it was just amazing. And I thought, I want to do that because this is the Apollo era, and everybody was really,
Get to the
you know,
moon.
yeah, amazed with everything that was up there. So I thought, yeah, I want to do that. So I, would build my makeshift parachutes as a kid and climb as high as I could, and I thought I'd probably survive. And I'd jump, and I bent myself up real good a few times, but didn't break too badly. But it never quite worked. So in the 90s, when I was working on my doctorate, I thought, I'm going to become a skydiver now. So I found a drop zone that was a couple hours away and started doing the training. And back then, tandem skydives weren't really a thing yet.
Interesting.
So I mean, they were invented in the 80s, and they didn't really become widespread until like the early 2000s.
Okay.
So to start your training, then you just had to do the ground school and go out on your own. And so I did that, and I got a handful of jumps, in the 90s. But then, finishing the education got in the way, and then marriage and kids and career, and then finally MS. And multiple sclerosis is a confusing, weird disease. It's one of those most
Mhm.
people have heard of,
But they
but
actually don't know what it is. I say I have a couple
yeah.
friends who have it, and I actually was a manager of someone who had it. Sorry to interrupt you. And
Uh-huh.
it was
Sure.
debilitating to him. He couldn't work. He had to take medical leave. It's really hard. So can you kind of describe the effects it had
Yeah,
on you?
what it is we didn't really realize this when I was first diagnosed, and I wasn't finally correctly diagnosed until 2006. So I'd been living with these symptoms off and on from the end of 1989
Oh
for
wow.
years before that. Um, and that's not too unusual with MS to go misdiagnosed or undiagnosed for a long time because it's
Mm,
difficult to pin down. But what happens is our immune system is has gone haywire, and it's attacking the myelin, which is the little fatty covering around the neurons in our brains and our spinal cord. And when that happens, it's like the if you lose the coating on the wires in your house, things start short circuiting.
mm,
And so depending on where the damage occurs, you can have problems with your legs. Like for me, sometimes my legs are a little wonky and they're difficult to work, and I don't feel them below my knees. And that was important for my skydiving story. Fatigue is always an issue for me. I'm always in pain. I always itch everywhere. I
mm.
have cognitive fogginess that I deal with. And, at other times, I've had more than 30 different symptoms come and go over the
Interesting.
years.
And there's no
So
full cure for MS yet, if I understand
there
correctly,
is
right?
there's not even a partial cure.
Not
We've
even a
got some
partial cure.
disease modifying drugs that we can take. And what that does is helps us statistically play our averages over the long term.
Mm, got it. So with the MS,
Mhm.
how did it affect your daily life? As you said, you had the pain in the legs, you had the pain in the body, the cognitive pain. How did it affect, say, your relationship with your family, work life, things like that?
Yeah, I was managing pretty well until we went through an extended, really stressful period. And one of the things they tell you when you're first diagnosed with MS is avoid stress. So of course I decided to become a regular skydiver, but but there was a method to my madness. Um, so I'd gotten really stressed and it was kind of awful. And I had a really bad exacerbation and it was largely cognitive.
Hmm.
And I'm a guy, at this time I was still a professor. I spent 15 years as a professor before I left the academy to be a startup tech entrepreneur. And I've been on the founding teams of several tech startups over the years. But so I work with my brain. And when my brain stopped working, that was terrifying.
Hmm.
And because I can't make a living if my brain doesn't work.
Yep.
Because and it was a there was a lot of emotional dysregulation. So I was like feeling things that didn't associate to the experience that was right in front of me.
Hmm. I got
And
you.
I was having a difficult time controlling emotions. And of course, that's very frustrating. And it was a really awful time. And eventually, I mean, I was frozen in my life. I did not know what I was going to do, and I could not find, and finally, my family gave up on me. My
Hmm.
wife and kids said, "You are more trouble than you're worth," and uh, left.
Wow. That,
And
what year was that?
that was it was 2015.
2015. So that was
Hmm.
7 years ago ish.
Hmm.
And would you consider that then the low point of everything that you went through up to that point?
Well, and then after my son, actually, it was they started my wife and daughter. My wife left, and her daughter went with her, and then my son left in 17, and then 3 weeks after my son left, that's when my Akita Nemo died of bloat. I don't know if you know what bloat
The
is, but
pup, the dog, unfortunately.
yeah. Hmm.
Oh,
and
no.
and so that was the last thing I was hanging on to. And basically, then it was just me and a little black cat wandering around the house here. And I didn't have anything. I didn't have my career. I didn't have my brain. I didn't have my family. I didn't have anything that was in my life that I loved anymore. And
Mm,
and I could not see a path with my wonky brain and my wonky body that I could get myself to a place where I would enjoy my life again, where it was a life I wanted to live.
y-
So yeah, 17 was really
the tough
the
one.
bottom, you
So,
know.
we've had a lot of people come on here who have talked about the same scenario when they talk about overcoming adversity, uh, suicidal thoughts. They talked about the family leaving them, they lost their job, and they all talked about this pit of despair where they felt isolated and alone, and there was nobody around them they felt they had that they could talk to, they could reach out to. And they all
Mhm.
kind of then go on to where they had this epiphany that there's something bigger than it's just them. And it's, if for you maybe it was finding skydiving, we'll find out. For other people it was finding the ability to make a difference through volunteering, if it was meditation or mindfulness, if it was something that they could go to and that helped them feel whole or helped them feel like they were able to survive another day. And then that second day became better, followed to a month, 6 months, and they were able to kind of rebuild themselves. So was there a point where you kind of had an epiphany, or was it something that happened to you where you felt like you were at the lowest of the lows, but something happened that was helped you regain the confidence or help you regain where you thought you could be?
Well, I think it's the main thing was something we haven't talked about yet, of course, and that's that my expertise is in studying people. And I've
Mm,
spent 30 years doing research, studying people. And specifically, I'd spent many years doing academic research on why some people succeed and other people fail under difficult circumstances. And so when I was diagnosed, I started kind of shifting my research into, well, how can we succeed or fail when we're faced with life with a chronic health condition that's never going to get better.
Mm.
And
Yeah, I got
half of
you.
all Americans live with a chronic health condition. That's mind boggling when you think about it. 18% of us live with at least 5 chronic diagnoses. So it's
Interesting.
everywhere.
And what, just for the audience out there, what would be considered like a
Mhm.
chronic diagnosis?
Oh, it could be anything where we don't have a medical cure, or, I mean, at the minimum, it's going to last for at least 3 months.
Okay, understood.
So diabetes, heart conditions, obesity, depression, anxiety, yada yada. There
Yep.
are hundreds of chronic conditions.
And a lot of those
So
things you mentioned, such as obesity, stress, anxiety, things like that, people, when they
mhm,
consider a condition, it's just a product. But obviously, like we know in the world, like mental health, physical health, it matters. And it's not just, a lot of people don't know how to get out of that scenario, or they feel they're in that scenario because there's other parts of their lives that are creating them needing to eat, and obesity, them creating the stress in their life, them creating heart issues, whatever that may be. So that's an
and
interesting point
and
you bring up.
and that's what my book is about, and that's what my seminars are about, and my podcast. It's about, it's not about finding one way, because there are actually many different ways that we can modify our mindset and our behavior and our environment and our relationships to improve our quality of life and health. But all of them work for somebody, only some of them will work for you.
Hmm.
And so I'm not about pushing a particular approach. I'm more interested, when I was writing this book, in giving people the tools to figure out, well, which way is going to be the best way for you, and how can you efficiently and effectively build your own best path.
Love that.
So yeah, so for me, one, it was, I had all this research, and I had to come to the realization that no matter how much book learning I had done a really awful job of trying to, of putting it into action in my own life.
Hmm.
And one day my son, who was about 14 or so at the time, said to me, "Dad, you really suck at doing things for yourself."
Hmm. Which is
Now, on the
very
one hand,
common for a
that's
lot
kind
of
of,
people.
yeah, that's a funny thing to come from your teenage son, but on the other hand, it was kind of crushing too.
Yeah, I
And
understand.
and so I was like, yeah. And so that's what led me to skydiving, because I said, look, I have lost so many things in my life that I care about. And I feel like a failure at everything. I need a win. I need to pick a big goal, something that I know I'm not good at, because my body is pretty wonky for controlling in free fall. And I need to be a complete and total novice at something. And I need to find my humility in life again. And because I'd spent years always being the expert in the room.
Hmm.
And I'd been a professor, I'd been the expensive consultant that comes in and does stuff. And I needed to be bad at something, and really work from the ground up and do it again, and show myself that I still had the capacity to do that.
Got it. And that's tough. A lot of people, one, don't ever want to take that path back down to be, say, square zero to come back up. And two, the inner looking at yourself to see that, acknowledge that, and then find something that would allow you to have the opportunity, which was skydiving.
Yeah. And it was, so it was letting me reclaim that childhood, dream. B, it was, I had to be a complete and total novice again, and really work my way through being bad at something. And the third thing was, I had become frightened of my own body.
Hmm.
When your body is always betraying you, when you're trying to get from A to B and suddenly your legs don't work, or you're trying to do something and suddenly your hands don't work, or you're trying to solve a problem that you've solved a million times before and your brain doesn't work, that's really defeating
Mm, I feel that.
because you don't
I
know when
feel
it's
that.
coming. Yeah. So I had become afraid of my own body because I didn't feel like I had any control over my own body. And all the stuff that I should take for granted, I couldn't anymore. So I figured I'm going to fling my body at the earth time after time after time and put myself in a position where I have to do something right or die. And I'm going to
Mm.
succeed. And if I can do that, then by golly, that's a level of confidence that I can take back into the rest of my life.
I love that. And so
Kind of
on
extreme, but
very, very extreme. But the concept is what, again, what you're saying is something that put you out of your comfort zone, and it took you from the despair that you're feeling and saying, I'm just gonna go for it. And if I go for it, I'm gonna enjoy it and it's gonna make me a better person mentally and physically. If I don't go for it, what do I have to lose? Like, it doesn't really matter at this point.
yeah, yeah. And for me, and normally it takes 25 jumps to get your A license. That's the first license in skydiving.
And how many
It
licenses are
took
there?
me, pardon,
How many licenses are there total?
there are four
Got it.
altogether, A through D.
Okay.
D is at 500. So
That's a pretty big jump from A to D.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, I mean, there's B is at 50, C is at 200, and then D is
Yeah.
at
Got it.
500. 500 is kind of where the training wheels come off.
Got it.
So normally it takes 25 jumps. It took me 47.
Mm.
I mean, I really had to work, and and they were like, "Man, your legs are just out of control." And I was just whipping around and in free fall, and I don't know that anybody thought I was going to be able to pass, but I did lots of extra work on the ground. I did lots of extra time in the vertical wind tunnels so that somebody could be there, instructor could be there right on my leg
Mm.
saying, this is how it was. And even though I can't feel my leg below my knees, I could feel the tension behind my knee at the base of my thigh.
Mm.
So I learned to understand where my leg was in space by the kind of tension that I could feel behind my thigh. And I learned to stand up a landing on a parachute, even though I can't feel when my feet touch, because I learned to feel the pressure at my knees.
Interesting. So you adapted based off the circumstances that you had. And
Yeah,
so as you hit 25 and then you hit, I think you said 75 and then 200 and
for
500.
yeah,
So yeah, and so you got the A, B, C, D license. How did that
yeah. And then I
affect
also picked up a coach rating along the way too,
you?
so I can help teach others.
Which is fantastic. So then you went from not being able to do it to helping now coach people. For the audience out there, what was that like, mentally to be able to accomplish those goals? And how did that help you mentally, physically move on and have more confidence the rest of your life?
There are just a couple things here that are really crucial. And one thing that psychologically speaking, something, even if it's a really small thing, is light years different from nothing.
Mm.
So if cognitively, emotionally, nothing is really devastating. It's really hard to move on from. A little bit, getting that first jump in, getting that second jump in, maybe 5 jumps later, being able to check something else off on the student ref card, right? Just one little thing. It may be really slow when I'm doing it, but it's still something, and something is better than nothing. So I have a rule that I use day in and day out. Everybody has plan A, and many people have plan B, and they think they're really smart for having the backup, and they are. But what I contend is we need a plan C. And the plan C day is, or the plan C activity is when the days are so bad that you just want to maybe curl up on the couch and get nothing done. And you're just by the end of the day, you look back on it and now you're kicking yourself for having wasted all that time. Plan C is the smallest, tiniest little thing that you can get done in the day, no matter how bad it is, so that by the end of the day, you have something to hang on to that's not nothing.
Mhm. I actually had one of those last night. I'll share. I was
Yeah.
working all day and it was great. And I told myself like I was gonna do a long workout, and then it started raining, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna work out now that it's raining. I was like, what's gonna stop me? Because it's raining. Like I want to go outside. I've been inside all day, so I just ran 4 miles in the rain. Like, I was just like, cool. And when I came back to my house, I just felt so much better that I'd gone out it. I had fun running in the rain. Nobody was around, so it was like an easy run. And what you're saying is like, if I hadn't done that, I would have gone to bed feeling defeated, lethargic, mad at myself for not doing anything. And
Mhm.
just getting out there and doing it with that whim on plan C, it changed my whole mindset for the rest of the night. And into
Yeah.
today, I feel much better.
Yeah, because people have to realize that, when they try to change a behavior, they think it's a tiny little thing because all they're looking at is the behavior itself, the external, what people are doing. But behaviors are like icebergs, and underneath what we see, there's all sorts of mental and emotional reinforcement, and it's contributing to our identity and our emotional state, and it's reinforced with habits and rituals, and so there's a lot to it, and it's really difficult to
Hmm.
change a behavior,
Hmm.
and people have to be kinder to themselves when they're trying to do that.
I agree. And people have to want to make a change of the behavior. If they're not going to make the change for themselves, you can't force someone to change the behavior, make them more committed to you, make them more outgoing. They need to have that will to do it themselves. And it's going to be hard, but with
they
practice, you can get there.
yeah, they need to do two things, and there's another part that's associated with what you're saying, because that's absolutely true. They've got to desire and have some motivation in that direction. But the second thing is they have to think that it's possible for them. And a lot of
Mm,
people, if they'll come up and say, "Oh, I can't do that."
yeah.
Well, it's it's not true when people say you can if you think you can. Okay, that's just not true, because there's some things that you think you can and you're not going to be able to do it because
Like I
you
won't
know
be an NBA
I,
player. Too short.
yeah, exactly. It's not going to do it. I'm not going to run, a 4-minute mile. Just not going to
Yeah.
happen. However, what is true is if you think you can't, you likely won't.
Mm,
So
I
it's a
like that.
gateway. That belief is a gateway to the possibility. And then you got to put in the effort.
I love that. And you put in the effort with the skydiving, and then just kind of wrap up that point there, and then we can move to mindfulness and moving
Sure.
forward. Now that we're at today, 2021, what do you continue to do with skydiving? What does it mean to you, and how has it brought you, say, closer to your family and people around you, and how has it kind of rechanged your life now that we look back at the 600 plus skydives you've done?
Yeah. I mean, I jump, my drop zone, fortunately, is 5 miles from my house. So I run over in the middle of the day whenever the weather's good, get a jump in every chance I can.
That's
So
awesome.
I'm
Do you
it's
have is it basically like a skydiving center you can do that, or a skydiving zone? So like
yeah,
someone takes you
those
out
are
there.
called drop zones.
Got it.
And that's it's a we've got a small regional airport here that's actually in Class B airspace, which is really cool. That is a drop zone first. So it's got a King Air, which is a mid-sized plane that holds about 13 jumpers or so at a time. And on good days during most of the year, they'll run that 6 days a week, from, like 9 or 11 in the morning all the way to sunset.
That's fantastic. And so you could just
Yeah.
go continue and continue and continue.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's really important. So skydiving is, it was all the good things that we've talked about before, but it's also, for me, it's intensely spiritual.
Hmm.
It is an intensely mindful, focused experience. It is pure joy, and it is a community, because skydivers call one another sky family,
Hmm.
because we get really close to one another. It's because we're the people who brave death with one another. And you've really got to trust other people to jump with them, because if somebody's out of control up there, they can take you out and kill both of you.
Hmm.
So it's kind of a self-selected group of people that all see the sense in flinging ourselves out of perfectly good airplanes, time after time. And that's not a lot of people.
Yeah. Would you say that there's a character? Obviously, you said you study people in the mind. Is there a character trait you feel like that you guys all have, such as like adrenaline junkies, or something that maybe the normal person doesn't have, that gives you the will to want to jump off a plane again and again and again?
This is really interesting, because most people think of skydivers as adrenaline junkies with death wishes. And those people, yeah, they come into the sport all the time, and those people never stay in the sport.
Mm.
You know, the people who stay in the sport are the people who get the peace and the joy from the experience, and who have that sense of deep satisfaction in going out and doing something that most people will never do, and would never do, and pushing ourselves and becoming good at doing that, and then saving ourselves every time. Because there is, if you, on the cover of my book here, there's a shot that
Yeah, let me take off the
almost
background
had
really
it.
quick.
There we go.
Oh, there
There
you
we
go.
go. There's this shot, and it's me in free fall, and I've got my hands up to my forehead like this in that picture,
And if you
and I'm
guys can't
about to.
see, he's like floating. For the people in audio, if you can't see, his hands are above his forehead, and he's, when you skydive, you're going face down, so he's like free falling down that way. So I continue.
Right, but this is the important thing here, is this gesture. We bring our hands up to our forehead and then sweep them out very wide, and it's called a wave off. And that gesture is the thing that every skydiver looks for, because it's when I'm telling everybody else in my airspace, I'm about to take action to save myself. You've been warned.
Oh, because
And I
you
wanted
release your
that
parachute.
image. Yeah, I wanted that image on the cover of the book, because that's where people who are about to read the book are out. That's where they're at. They're saying, you're about to take action to save yourself.
Hmm.
So everybody get ready.
I love that. And tell us a little bit more about the book and the reception and what it's about.
Yeah, it's 2/3 science and 1/3 memoir. And so the science part is all of the it's a lot of it is stuff that I wish I had understood and been told when I was diagnosed, or when my then wife was diagnosed, and when so many other people that I know have been diagnosed. So, because I went back and I'm a scientist, so I collected a lot of data. I interviewed hundreds, I surveyed thousands. I collected millions of data points from the web. I did meta-analyses across thousands of studies on hundreds of conditions. And what I was interested in is not about health. I was interested in quality of life. How do we have a good life when there's something really bad that we can never get away from?
Mm.
And so what I was interested in is, since medicine doesn't have a solution, let's look at systematically all of the cognitive, emotional, behavioral, social, environmental factors that we can potentially manipulate to improve our quality of life. And not so much, here's the checklist XYZ of what you need to do. It's all about, here's how you can recognize in yourself which ones of these things will work for you and which ones won't.
Hmm. Very interesting. Very interesting. If people wanted to find the book, where can they find it?
It's out on February 7th, and it'll be Amazon and Indie Books and a bunch of other places, as many places as we can get it.
Awesome. So again, it's not out there yet. So this is actually a prelude for you guys, but we'll make sure when it comes out, we'll do some PR.
Now you
So
can't, yeah, they can go to the website right now and get 100 pages free.
awesome. And so we'll make sure the link, if you guys are watching or listening, it's in the bio right here. And as we kind of round third here, the one thing I did want to talk about, make sure we talk about, is meditation. So off podcast, we were talking about meditation.
Mindfulness does not have to be static. Mindfulness does not have to be detached. Mindfulness should be about engaging in the world. And one of the things that people think is difficult to believe about skydiving, and trust me, ask your audience, ask the other skydivers that you run across, and most of us will tell you that free fall is the most mindful, present experience that you can have.
Mm.
Because when I exit the plane, we usually go out at 14,000 feet. At 14,000 feet, you've got approximately 82 seconds of free fall until you impact the earth. So a voice in the back of my head says, when I exit, 82 seconds. And then I can assure you, when you are headed to the earth at terminal velocity, your bills, your problem with your spouse, the jerk at work who's making things difficult, the guy who cut you off in traffic, none of that is bothering you. You are right here in this moment, and your senses expand, and you feel at once so small and insignificant in this amazing big sky with the earth horizon to horizon all around you, but you also feel so big and so expansive and so connected to everything, and that is just a remarkable, peaceful experience. And that is, more than anything else, why I keep skydiving, because it is such a profound, transcendent experience. And all you have to do is jump out of a plane to get it.
Yeah, no big deal. Just jump out of the plane super high up. But I personally actually have never gone skydiving. I've never really had the will. I've had friends who've gone, I've had the opportunity, but just never really had the will. But everyone who's come back from skydiving has illuminated to the same type of concept you said. It was the most thrilling moment they've ever had. It was the best thing ever. They want to go again and again. I haven't heard someone come out of it and be like, that was terrible. That sucked. Like, I have no clarity. So it's interesting, as you said, like when it's just you, the sky, and the ground, there's no, what other words do you have in the world? It's just you enjoying life in the moment, which is what mindfulness is. If you're sitting at a beach watching the ocean or whatever you're doing, wherever it may be, you're just zen in the moment. And with skydiving, you're definitely zen in the moment. If you're not, splat.
Well, there is a saying in skydiving. You'll hear skydivers wish each other blue skies. And blue skies is actually half of the saying. The full saying is blue skies, black death. And it symbolizes kind of the yin and the yang of skydiving, because there is the joy, the ultimate joy and connection and peace and transcendence of the experience of being in the sky. But the consequence is we are always intimately connected with the black death of the earth.
Hmm.
And we are always mindful of that. It's very stoic, in its contemplation of death in the face of joy, and how that, should invigorate us and motivate us to get the most and the best out of this precious gift of life that we have.
I think that's a good way to segue and wrap this up, talking about, as you said, the precious life and everything. And it sounds like to me, to recap, you went through a lot with the physical and mental ailments that came through, and you really had some despair. However,
Yeah.
you found your, I won't even say calling, I would say you found your purpose in life and going down skydiving again and again. And I hoped you come to terms with the physical, mental ailment you're dealing with, and you overcame diversity of what is my life becoming, what do I do, and you found your happy place. So for anyone
Yeah.
out there who feels like they're in that dark spot, they're in that rut, and there's nothing for them, really think, what is your happy place? Maybe that might be having a pet, maybe that be cooking, that could be working out, whatever it is. Go to the happy place mentally, physically, however you can do it, and be there and be present in the moment and disconnect, and you're going to come out of it better. It might take, like he was saying, multiple jumps, whatever that may be, to really get the hang of what it is to be in your happy place. But once you find a happy place and you do what you want for yourself and not try to do it for others, you'll really be able to hopefully grow yourself and grow and turn whatever you're dealing with into a better situation for yourself.
Amen.
I agree. Any final words on your side?
Yeah, I just that, yeah, my happy place is jumping out of a plane. But I just want to reemphasize, you've got a happy place. And it may be difficult to find, and you may not see a path from here to where it is, but keep trying. And you will take one step in the right direction. And you may backslide then, but that's okay, because success requires failure along the way. And you know how joyful life can be. And a lot of times when we are so down and we are so despondent, it's because we have experienced those highs and we just can't figure out a way to get back to that joy again. We're just a little lost, and we just need, because lost evolutionarily does a real number on our brains. And it's not just physically lost, it's emotionally lost, socially lost, all that stuff. It's really devastating to us. You can find your way again and get help finding your way again.
So have people around you who support you to help you get to where you need to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Kevin,
Because I wouldn't be jumping if I hadn't had a whole community of people at the drop zone who were willing to help me figure out how to do this with my wonky body.
and look where he is today. He's probably going to go jump right now when this is over.
Well, it's nighttime right
Yeah.
now, but I will be. We're actually kind of in the winter part of the year, but I'll jump this weekend.
There you go. Well, I hope you jump. And again, we'll get some videos, we'll get some footage on the social media of Kevin jumping. We'll share it out with you guys so you guys can
Sure.
see it. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on today. If people had any questions, wanted to reach out to you, anything like that, how can they find you?
yourlifelivedwell.co. That's the name of the book. That's the name of the podcast. That's the name of the seminars and, all the other stuff that I do on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. It's your LL Well. And then personally, I'm Dr. KJ Payne everywhere.
Awesome. And again, everything will be in the bio of however you're watching or listening. My name's Randy Silver. This is the Leap of Faith podcast. Thank you again so much for listening or watching, however you are. If you like this content, please go follow me. Please follow him. Again, this last week was crypto and stocks, more life lessons, how to do it. This week was more about how can we be the best person ourselves and help come out of the despair that you may be feeling or the rut you may are to live your life to the best you can. I think Kevin shared a great job with us understanding any type of ailment you have, physical, mentally. If you can find your happy place, you can make yourself feel better, which is great. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate your time today and sharing your knowledge with us. We'll go ahead and do the sign off, so I'd love for you to repeat after me. Stay healthy.
Stay healthy.
Stay wealthy.
Stay wealthy.
And have a good week, fans.
And have a good week, fans.
Go jump out of a plane. Deuces.
Exactly.